Hello guys, Ali Karim here. Today we're going to see how to work with socket programming in Java, and we will be very quick. So here we have two classes, one is client, one is server. I've tested the code obviously, so we just made two classes, written the scanner class itself to get the inputs. For server we don't need the IP, but for the client we need the IP to where to connect to. In server, when we just create the socket or server, it all automatically connected to your local IP, which is generated from your NIC or network card or LAN card, something like that. So to keep your server running, first we're going to write a while loop, and in this while loop we're going to keep it true so that the server keep running for until we need a break. So, and the first thing you need to do is create a socket server socket. Server socket, and it requires a port, and we're giving it a port. That's it. And okay, so it could return exception, so we're going to keep it in try catch. And inside our while loop, what we're going to do is ask for acceptance. It has a method called accept. So since we're writing it inside the try catch and we're not getting it outside, so let me just make it global. It'll be better. Let's make it a static. When you call the accept method, it will give you a socket. So you should create a socket, and via this socket you're going to communicate with your client and so on. So far so good. Still have an error. Okay, so it could also throw an exception. So we'd like to create this one above. Okay, so far so good. First thing we need is to get input from the client. So whatever inputs that client made, we want to get it. To get the client's input, we need a buffer reader. Okay, so it should be buffered reader. If we just take a look at inside the instantiation of buffered reader, it takes a reader as an instantiation object. So to create a reader, we're going to use input stream reader. We're calling it reader, new input stream. And as you can see that an input stream reader takes an input stream. So we need an input stream so far here. Stream. And we can get the input stream from our socket. Get. We could just write all these three lines in one line, but I really like it if we have those breakpoints so that you can remember that how it's really instantiating. So we need a reader here. I made a mistake. So far so good. So we have now our reader to get the input from the client. So we could write here that we have our reader to get the from client. So now next thing what we need is output datagram. Let's say we take the input from the client and now we process the input. Now we want to give back what we process inside our server to the client. To do that, we need an output stream. So let's create a data output stream. Data output stream, and it takes a output stream as an out. So we call it output stream. I just go backfiring those, and I can get the output stream from my socket. Get output stream, and it will give me a suggestion. Boom, and we have our output to client. Okay, so via this we are okay, so far so good. So now let's say we're taking input from the client, and we have our input from client object, which is a buffered reader and read line. That's it. Now we need to write our client code, and for client we actually need the IP. So if we keep it blank, let's give it as localhost. So first thing, if it is blank, then server IP. If it is, let's say, null or equals this one, then server IP equals localhost. That's simple. Next, what we need is port, that which port we wanted to get connected with the server. Server port. Better if we have greater than 9000, and it should be from the server. So whatever server is running, we should input the port here, and it should be an int. And it should be port. So far so good. Now we will try to connect with the socket that server created here. We're going to connect it by our port and the IP that we have taken input from the user. We're going to try, and if we succeeded, then we're going to do something. And see that it takes two inputs, host and the port, and that's what we're going to give here, server IP and the port. Okay. It could cause an exception. We're going to add that into the throws, but I really don't like that. I like to give it a try catch, but since it's a very quick tour on Java, I'm going to leave it as it is. Now inside, client is not going to be running all the time. Client will run at a time and it will be gone. So first we're going to take an input from the client. We're going to do it by scanner, since we have a scanner. Next line. We can also give it a message that we want input from the client. So here we're going to give the server IP addresses so that it will be meaningful to the user. So server plus, I'm going to use colon and the port. So where did I miss? Okay. So I'm taking input from the client. So far so good. Now I need to actually get the data, actually send the data to the servers. To do that, we need a data output stream as before. Right, and data stream, data output stream, and as you remember from previous, it takes an output stream which we could instantiate from our socket. Get output stream. You could actually do it in inline here, but I choose to write it like this. And with this, I'm going to write the bytes to my server. So I'm going to use write bytes, this method, so it takes in a string. But one thing important, that it only doesn't take only strings, but it also requires end of line or a /n. So if you don't give the /n, it will not work in the server side. So make sure you put the /n so that when the server is processing, it knows that it's end of a line. So that's very important. And when the server processes, server sends the data to you as well. So to catch the data, we need a buffered reader as before. So if you remember from the server, almost everything else is similar. Saying is buffered reader, I miss it with buffer. So new buffered reader, as you remember, it takes an input stream, and we can make the input stream here, input stream, and input stream takes stream reader or input stream only. So we could get it from our socket, if you remember from previous. Get input stream, that's it. So there are 3 lines of code, we just got it in 1 line. So we could also name it as processed data from server. Boom. So string processed data read line. That's it. And we're going to output it. The S out is the template. Okay, so we're done with the client programming, and we have a little bit left in our server programming is the processing. So we're taking the input from the client, so far here good, but we haven't passed the string to the client. We're going to do it with the data output stream. And in between, we're going to do some operations with it. So to do that, I really like to do it like this. Operation, whatever we do, we actually get a back string processed data. I don't like to call it as processed data because we get something out, and our IDE is smart enough to give us a hint to make the method. And inside, let's say we want to, let's say, reverse it, or let's say add something to it. let's just add it that your data is processed. Simple is good. We could do heavy manipulation, but for simplicity, we're just keeping it simple. Processed from server. Boom. That's it. And we're just return it. Okay. So in the output stream, write bytes as a string. So again, /n is very important. Don't forget it. Now, if we just run our server first. Okay, so when we're connected with the socket, I'm going to write it like this. Your server is connected. Server is online. You can connect from client with port, and the port is the port that user inputted. Boom. And in the client, okay, we don't want anything. It's a client app. So you can think of those as distinct machines. The one machine is running as server. So first, what you need is, let's say, run this program. So when you run this, you can really think of it as a machine, another machine, and client is running in another machine. So let's say 9051. Let's try to do it. So we're connected with a 9051 port now. Now let's try our client app. In the client app, we're going to leave it as empty because we're currently in localhost, but if it is in different machine, then we have to get our network ID. So we could do it by IP config, and this is my IP here. So for your case, your IP, and you put that IP in here. For me, I'm going to keep it as blank 051. Okay. So I made some mistake maybe somewhere. So okay, so in the client scanner, wait for it. Okay, so sometimes when you take scanner to take input inside a socket, it doesn't go very well. So to solve that problem, we could use the buffer reader as before, but this time we're going to use it from the system.in. So we're going to say that system.in. Okay. Here we're going to say system.in. And we're still call it input from input, let's say input taker from client. That would be a good name, and it should be read line. Okay, so still we're running this one, so try keep it blank, port 9051. And now we have the input, and we're going to say it hello world socket programming. Boom. And see that you're getting the process data from the server. I'm not really running in this one. This one is running itself, but I'm getting in the client machine that server process some data and give it back. Thank you for watching. I'm Alimul Karim, and if you like it, subscribe. And if you really like it, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like it, describe why you don't like it. We will make it better next time. Thank you.